The
October 28th, 2024.
winner is...
Paris, the Ballon d'Or ceremony. The entire football world is waiting for Vinicius Jr. to win. The Real Madrid delegation is so confident of the result that, after different information emerges, they refuse to attend the ceremony at all. But the award goes to Rodri.
Rodri.
The defensive midfielder walks onto the stage on crutches after suffering a serious knee injury. A player without social media, tattoos, or a flashy public image officially becomes the best footballer in the world. Rodri himself says, "Today, I did not win. Today, Spanish football won." But his journey could have ended when he was still a teenager. At 17, Atlético Madrid released Rodri from their academy because they considered him too skinny and physically weak. A few months later, he packed his bags and called his father to tell him he was done with football. And even when Rodri was already playing in La Liga, he continued living in a student dormitory, preparing for exams, and driving a second-hand Opel Corsa. Let's find out how a footballer without a flashy image, millions of followers, or spectacular highlight reels became the best player in the world and the most important man in Spain's championship-winning team. Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante was born in Madrid and began playing for small teams in the Las Rosas area. He later joined Rayo Majadahonda, where he trained alongside Marcos Llorente, and at the age of 11, he entered Atlético Madrid's academy. It seemed that his path had already been decided. But at 17, the club decided to release him. Why? The coaches considered Rodri too skinny and not strong enough for senior football. For a defensive midfielder, that sounded almost like a final verdict. He moved into Villarreal's youth system, but the first few months were difficult. Rodri did not feel that he was making progress, and began to doubt whether he was capable of becoming a professional footballer at all. One night, he packed his bags and called his father. "I told him, it's over. I've given everything, but it isn't working." And he replied, "We did not come all this way to give up. Be patient and work until the very last day." Rodri stayed. And here is what is especially interesting. Even after he broke into Villarreal's first team, his life barely changed. Did you know that the future Ballon d'Or winner continued living in a student dormitory even after making his La Liga debut? He enrolled at Jaume I University to study business administration and economics. He continued living in an ordinary student dormitory, attending classes and preparing for exams. After matches against Barcelona or Real Madrid, Rodri would return to his room, heat up a pizza, and open his textbooks. He drove a second-hand Opel Corsa that he had bought from an elderly woman. When someone at the club hinted that a professional footballer should buy a more modern car, Rodri replied that a car was supposed to take him from one place to another. Nothing else mattered. Rodri gradually established himself in Villarreal's team and proved that he could handle senior football. But one strange question remained. Why did Atlético Madrid, the club that had considered him too weak, decide to bring Rodri back a few years later and pay 20 million euros for him? Because that was what a coach who had built his career on toughness and discipline wanted. In the summer of 2018, Atlético Madrid paid Villarreal 20 million euros and brought Rodri back to Madrid. That was the decision of Diego Simeone, a coach who had built his career on toughness and discipline. 5 years earlier, Atletico's academy had considered Rodri too weak for senior football. Now Simeone was going to test him at the most demanding level. In a single season, Rodri learned to position himself better in a low block, challenge more aggressively for the ball, and anticipate the opposition's counterattacks. He became the La Liga leader in successful tackles. Now we understand. Atletico brought Rodri back because, at Villarreal, he had transformed his former weakness into one of his greatest strengths. But he stayed in Madrid for only 1 year. In the summer of 2019, Manchester City bought him for 70 million euros. Pep Guardiola was looking for a replacement for Fernandinho, and chose a footballer who was only beginning to understand his own potential. In England, Rodri had to learn all over again. Simeone demanded that he close down space. Guardiola wanted Rodri to control that space himself, constantly make himself available for a pass, change the direction of attacks, and control the speed of the game. By the way, Have you ever wondered why a defensive midfielder sometimes deliberately slows down an attack, even when the entire team could run forward? Rodri explained it simply. A few calm passes allow his teammates to take up the correct positions and deny the opposition the chance to counterattack. Gradually, he became the man through whom almost every City attack passed. Guardiola said,
Rodri is the best midfielder in Europe. He reads space incredibly well, knows where a teammate is free, and knows how to score in key moments.
So, he knew how to control a game. But could Rodri decide important matches himself? He answered that question in the Champions League final. June 10th, 2023. Istanbul, the Champions League final. Manchester City are playing Inter and are just one match away from the first treble in the club's history. But the first half is difficult. Inter close down the center of the pitch, deny City any free space, and force Rodri to receive the ball under constant pressure. The Spaniard plays too cautiously. He chooses safe passes and rarely moves forward. At halftime, Guardiola tells him directly,
You are playing passively and below your level. Stop being afraid of making a mistake and take a step forward.
In the 68th minute, the ball rebounds to the edge of the penalty area after a cross from Bernardo Silva. Rodri is exactly where he needs to be. A first-time shot, and the ball travels between the defenders and into the far corner. It is the only goal of the final. Manchester City win the Champions League for the first time and complete the treble. And the footballer who had been afraid to take risks before halftime decides the biggest match in the club's history. What especially surprises me is Rodri's attitude towards that goal. He later admitted that he had watched it more than 5,000 times, with commentary in different languages.
I watched it in Spanish, English, Italian, German, probably around 5,000 times already.
He wanted to hear the reaction of the crowd again and see the moment in which a few seconds changed his entire career. But that final showed more than Rodri's ability to score important goals. With him in the team, Manchester City and the Spanish national team subsequently went 74 matches unbeaten in all competitions. The reason was not only his passes, tackles, or goals. Rodri could sense when the team needed to speed up, and when it needed to stop and regain control. At Euro 2024, he diagnosed this especially clearly. Spain conceded first, the young players began to rush, and the opposition sensed that the match was changing. Then Rodri took the ball and forced the entire team to stop for 30 seconds. June 30th, 2024. The round of 16 at the European Championship. Spain are playing Georgia and concede as early as the 18th minute. De La Fuente's young players begin to rush. The passes become sharper, the players run forward more quickly, and Georgia get exactly the chaos they need. Rodri takes the ball in midfield, raises his hands, and asks his teammates to stop. Spain spend around 30 seconds making calm passes, return the players to their positions, and begin controlling the match again. Rodri himself explained moments like this in the following way.
Sometimes, spending 20 or 30 seconds telling your teammates, calm down, gives you more than a frantic run forward. You need a cool head.
In the 39th minute, he receives the ball near the penalty area and equalizes with his left foot. After that, Spain score 3 more times and win 4-1. Luis de la Fuente called Rodri a computer.
Rodri is the perfect computer. He manages the emotions and the structure of the entire team perfectly.
A very accurate description. Rodri controlled the tempo, moved his teammates into position, and understood when Spain needed to attack and when it was enough simply to keep the ball. At the Euros, the team won all 7 matches. Along the way, Spain defeated Italy, Germany, France, and England, while Rodri was named the best player of the tournament. A few months later, he won the Ballon d'Or. Rodri walked onto the stage on crutches and said, "Today, I did not win. Today, Spanish football won. This is a victory for Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and Casillas. This is a victory for the invisible defensive midfielders." He was speaking about footballers whose work rarely appears in highlight reels. They cover for their teammates, correct mistakes, and control the course of a match, even though viewers often notice them only after a goal. But Rodri arrived at the ceremony with a serious knee injury. At the moment of his greatest individual triumph, he was already unable to step onto the pitch. Now he had to recover and prove that the perfect computer could control the game again after a complete shutdown.
This is so class.
July 19th, 2026.
Speaking in Spanish here, what a guy.
The World Cup final. Spain are battling Argentina. Standing opposite Rodri are the reigning world champions and Lionel Messi. After his serious knee injury, the simple fact that he was playing in a match like this was already a victory. But Spain needed much more. Argentina tried to deny Rodri time to make decisions. Their midfielders constantly pressed him from behind, blocked the nearest passing options, and tried to force Spain to play faster than they were comfortable with. Rodri spent 99 minutes on the pitch and completed 93 of his 99 passes. But his main achievement was that he did not allow the match to descend into chaos. When Argentina increased the pressure, Rodri slowed the game down and gave his teammates time to return to their positions. When space appeared, he immediately directed the attack forward. In addition, the Spaniard won aerial duels and closed off the spaces between midfield and defense for Messi. In the 99th minute, Rodri left the pitch. 7 minutes later, Nico Williams won the duel after a cross from Pedro Porro, and Ferran Torres scored the only goal of the final. Spain became world champions. Rodri did not provide an assist and was not on the pitch when the decisive shot was taken. But during the previous 99 minutes, he had created the conditions that made that goal possible in the first place. At 17, Atletico released him because he lacked physical strength. He was preparing to quit football, lived in a student dormitory, and drove an old Opel Corsa. Simeone taught him how to withstand the battle. Guardiola taught him how to control space. And Rodri taught himself how to control entire matches. He won the Ballon d'Or without social media, a loud public image, or a constant presence in highlight reels. Perhaps that is exactly why his story is so unusual. People often notice Rodri only when he is not on the pitch. Could that be what the best footballer in the world actually looks like?
Rodri.